All right, if anyone can hear me, hello. And what I do is I do live stream English lessons where we watch interesting videos about AI, technology, economics, culture, maybe travel, interesting topics basically. And while we're watching the video, I will explain the vocabulary, expressions, and grammar along the way. Okay, so let me just double check if everything's on. Okay, seems to be working. Or maybe travel. Let me just double check here. Interesting topics basically. And while we're watching the video, I will explain the vocabulary, expressions, and grammar. All right, so it's all working. Let's go with this video. Okay, just gotta double check to see if.
Look at these three forces and how laying them on top of each other creates a good template.
See if the audio is working. Okay.
We'll look at these.
So we were having a look at this video yesterday, and we stopped here. Okay, at this point. So this video is How the Economic Machine Works by Ray Dalio. Okay, he's a famous investor in America. Maybe not as famous as Warren Buffett, but he's pretty famous. And yeah, he tries to break down the economic machine or the economy, you know, how it works into using kind of simple language. So let's go.
We'll look at these three forces and how laying them on top.
Because he was talking
and
about.
Number three, number one. And
he was talking about three main forces that drive the economy. Okay, so drive is think about your car. What drives your car? The engine and gasoline provide the energy for your car to move. Yeah. So he's talking about three main forces that push the economy, that make it run. And they were
number one,
productivity growth, number one.
The
short-term debt cycle, number two.
And number three,
the long-term debt cycle. Okay, so let's begin.
The long-term debt cycle. We'll look at these three forces and how laying them on top of each.
Let's go back. So let me just double check see if everything's working. Okay. So yesterday I spoke about the fact that when we're talking about the future, there's actually four very flexible grammar patterns to use for the future. There's two future simple and two future continuous. So future simple is we will look at these three forces. Future continuous is we will be looking. Okay, we will be looking at these three forces. So that's future continuous. Okay, and then gonna is also future simple. So we could say we are gonna look, we are going to look, we are gonna look at these three forces. This is also future simple. And there's another future continuous, which is we are gonna be looking at these three forces. So the future simple is just we will look and we're gonna look. Okay, future continuous, you have to add a be and then verb ing. Okay, so we will be looking and we are gonna be looking, okay, at these three forces. And they all mean the same thing in situations where the action has a process. So looking, we're gonna look at these three forces. It's gonna be a process. Okay, so all four of these are very interchangeable whenever the action has process. But when the action is very instant, like if you will break a window, you cannot say you will be breaking a window because it's super instant. You be careful, you will break that window. But that's only less than 1% of verbs that I notice are instant. So what are we doing now? So we will look at these three forces. There are other ways to talk about the future. You can also use modals. We might look in the future. We could look at these three forces. We should look. We must look. We may look. But these give a very different feeling. You know, we should look. It's the best thing for us to do, but we don't have to. We have the choice. We should look. It's the best thing to do. We must look. No choice. We must look. We have to look. But must can be used in a fun way as well. Like if you come to Barcelona, you must try this famous tapas that we have in Barcelona. So, you know, must can be used in a fun way as well. We could look. Could is it's an option in the future. We could do that. We could do this. We might look is a 50-50 prediction. You know, like a 50-50 prediction. We might look, we might not look, maybe. And we may look has the exact same meaning as might, but just may is more formal, more polite. Okay, so just checking if okay. So then yeah, there are some other future tenses, but they're more tricky to use. There's the present simple for the future and the present continuous for the future. They're very tricky to use. They're complicated. You have to be really, really sure about something. So if you're flying to, where are you going to fly? Los Angeles. And your friend can ask you, oh, what time do you land in Los Angeles? You could say, oh, we arrive or we land at 7 a.m. Our flight arrives at 7 a.m. So our flight arrives, present simple, but we're talking about the future. Tomorrow, our flight arrives at 7 a.m. tomorrow. It's present simple, but it's because there is you can only use present simple for the future when you have an outside timetable or schedule. You know, flight timetables, schedules, bus timetables and schedules, restaurant opening hours. What time does the restaurant close? The restaurant closes at 11 p.m. tonight. Okay, because the restaurant has a timetable outside of you. It's not your timetable. It's an outside schedule or timetable, and your plan is on that schedule. So the train leaves at 10 a.m. Okay, because the train has a timetable schedule. It's like fact. That is the schedule. So then, wow, it's really warm. So then we have present continuous, and we for the future we use present continuous for the future when it's a sure plan. Okay, so you could say I spoke to my friends and we're having dinner on Saturday. Like we are having dinner. So it's present continuous because me and my friends, we made that plan. We are doing that. It's very sure. We're doing that on Saturday. It's a very sure, strong plan. Okay, but then you have the four flexible, very flexible, interchangeable future tenses. I will watch a movie. I will be watching a movie. I'm gonna watch a movie. I'm gonna be watching a movie. But we'll practice that again whenever we see a future tense. So we'll look at these three forces. Okay. Okay. So we will look, we will be looking, we're going to look, we're going to be looking at these three forces and how laying them on top of each other. So I mentioned before the gerund. The gerund can have different functions. So the gerund is verb ing on its own. Okay. And the functions can be noun sometimes, verb, or adjective. And a few more actually, but let's just focus on those. So we'll look at these three forces and how, so think about the function. Is the function here adjective or more verb or more noun? To me, the function is more verb. Okay. In other situations, you know, I like programming. Programming, the function would be more noun, I think. Yeah. The root of the gerund comes from a verb. To program is a verb, but we create a concept of that action with the gerund, you know, programming. So we'll look at these three forces and how laying them on top of each other. Okay, so he's going to overlay these three forces.
We'll look at these three forces and how laying them on top of each other creates a good template for...
how laying them over each other, combining all of them, creates a good template. He says template, but I say template. Template. I use a very lazy vowel called the schwa sound, or the schwa vowel. It's this like very lazy vowel sound, like template. Let me check. So how combining these, laying them on top of each other, creates a good template. Template like a model that you can work with. Okay, a good model or template for tracking economic movements. So, gerund, what do you think the function is? Is it verb, noun, or adjective? I think it's more verb here. The function's a little more of a verb feeling, but it's a gerund. Okay, there's no auxiliary verb like be, was, were, is. Creates a good template for tracking. Okay, gerund, verb. Economic movements. Economic movements, noun, adjective.
Tracking economic movements and figuring out what's happening.
And figuring out. So here's a phrasal verb, but it's a, you would call, yeah, it's really like a gerund phrasal verb. Okay, and think about the function. Is it more noun, adjective, or verb? Okay, it's more verb. Okay, because
Of each other
for tracking, gerund verb, for doing this.
Creates a good template for tracking economic movements.
Oh, for tracking. I didn't explain tracking. How would you explain tracking? Creates a good template for tracking. Like identifying the path, I guess. Yeah, identifying the path of economic movements. So.
And figuring out what's happening now.
And figuring out. So figuring out means understanding how to do something, like finally understanding, like, okay, I figured it out. This was a difficult issue or problem, and I thought a lot about the solution, and I figured it out. It's like I found the solution mentally. So I figured, and figuring out what is happening now. So what is happening now? Present continuous. It's in process now. It could be more these days now. So let's go.
Now, let's start with the simplest part.
So let's begin with the simplest superlative, like the most simple, yeah, the simplest part of the economy.
Part of the economy, transactions.
Transactions. Okay, I don't need to explain because he's going to explain it.
An economy is simply the sum of the transactions that.
An economy is simply like basically. Okay, an economy is basically or simply the sum. So the sum is the addition, you could say. You know, if you have many small, if you have lots of small parts, you add them up. How many small parts do we have here? We have 10. Okay, so you've just summed up those parts, and the total is 10. Yeah, it's the addition of the total. You could say total. An economy is simply the total. Yeah. Let me just check everything. So an economy is simply the total amount, the sum, yeah, of the transactions that make the economy. Okay, so the economy is made up of millions of small little transactions, purchases. Okay, and those small little purchases and transactions create or make up the economy. Okay, they make it up. There is also another makeup when you use your imagination to create an idea. You know, like if you tell a story and it's not true, and it's a joke to your friends would say, "Come on, you made it up." You made it up. You invented that story. It's not real. It's from your imagination. Okay. So yeah, it's just a totally different meaning. There's two different meanings for make up something. So an economy is simply the sum, the total of the transactions that make it up.
And a transaction is a very
Transaction is a very simple, basic thing.
simple thing. You make transactions all the time.
You make transactions all the time. So present simple, generally speaking, it's a fact.
Every time you buy something, you create a
Every time you, generally speaking, present simple, every time you buy something. So here you cannot say every time you are buying something. It's a bit weird. If you want to be more general, you would use present simple. Every time you buy something, you create a transaction. Okay, a transaction. This dude's got money. This dude's got products, stocks, and services, and they exchange that stuff. So
transaction.
Every transaction. So he's speaking very, very generally. He's talking about facts, so he's using the present simple a lot. Each transaction consists, you could say is made up of, remember, is made up of, because what is one transaction? It's made of two parts, okay? Two parts make up the transaction. A transaction consists of two parts. So each transaction consists of a buyer.
Transaction consists of a buyer exchanging money.
Exchanging, so again, gerund, yeah?
Each transaction consists of a buyer exchanging.
So what is the function here? Noun, verb, or adjective? Each transaction consists of a buyer
exchanging
money or credit. So the function is more verb. Okay. The function is more verb. Do you know what? It's a kind of like if you said, pretend you're in the park with your friend and you say, hey, look at that man. So, hey, look at that man is a statement. Okay? That exists on its own. But you can use a gerund to, how would I say, you can have basically two statements like, hey, look at that man reading the newspaper. Reading the newspaper is an extra descriptive clause or idea. Just think of it like that. So, hey, look at that man. That's one idea. Reading the newspaper. The second idea gives more description to the man. And you can, very often, you can do that using the gerund. Okay, look at that man reading, gerund, reading the newspaper. So that's what he's doing here. Each transaction consists of a buyer. This exists on its own. Okay, this statement. But now he wants to give extra description to the buyer. So he uses the gerund to add more information, more description. Money or credit. So credit, everyone knows what money is. It's physical. Well, it could be digital as well, money. But credit would be... Credit and debt are the same thing. You know, credit sounds nice when you get it. Oh, I've got credit, but another word for it is debt the moment you get it. So... Well, I guess the moment you spend it becomes debt. Exchanging money or credit.
Money or credit.
With a seller. So buyer, seller, exchanging what?
Exchanging money or credit.
So exchanging currency, money or credit, a loan or a mortgage.
Credit with a seller.
With the seller for goods. So goods are products, okay? Shoes, watches, clothes, a new car, a fancy Casio watch. You know what I mean. What am I doing now? Okay, products, services. So services, you know, someone cleaned your apartment, that's a service. You go for a haircut, that's a service. And financial assets would be financial. Well, an asset is, yeah, this is difficult. What is it? An investment. Stocks, yeah, stocks are, I guess, financial products, you could call them. Financial assets. Assets are, I guess, okay, if you own a company, a factory with 20 machines, all of those machines are your assets. They are all worth, they all have value. Okay, and you could sell those physical assets. Okay, and get money for them. Or your car is an asset. Your car and house are assets to you. You can sell them and exchange them for money. And financial assets, stocks, crypto, you can sell them and receive money. So, all right.
For goods, services, or financial assets. Credit spends just.
Credit spends, present simple, it's fact. Credit spends in the same way, just like money. Okay? Yes, it is the same. I mean, well, except credit becomes debt after that. Credit spends just like money.
Just like money, so adding together the money spent.
So adding, you see how often the gerund is used? Yeah? So adding, what is the function? No, adjective, noun, or verb? It's more verb here. So adding together the money spent, I guess he's going to say the money spent in the economy, or for an individual. The money spent, so adding together the money spent and the amount of credit that you spend. If you have a credit card, how much money did you spend on your credit card?
And the amount of credit spent, you can know the total spending.
You can know your total spending, or a country's total spending, or a company's total spending. The total spending. Spending is a gerund, but now, okay, so what is the function here of spending? This gerund, is it noun, verb, or adjective? Okay, here is more noun. It's the concept of the action of to spend. Okay, and the adjective is total. Adjective, total, noun. Gerund, noun. Spending. So you can know the total spending. So I'm just checking here for comments. If anyone leaves a comment, then you can interact.
The total amount of spending drives the
total amount of spending drives the economy. The total amount of. So now is this more? Is the gerund, is the function more noun, verb, or adjective? The total amount of. I think it's closer to a noun here. The total amount of this thing. But sometimes it's like a mixture of a noun and a verb, because the root is a verb, but the concept becomes sometimes more verb, but sometimes more noun. The total amount of gerund spending drives, pushes, gives energy to the economy.
The economy. If you divide the amount spent.
So, conditional, if. Yeah, the moment you see if, it's normally a conditional. If you divide, so, yeah, conditional is really tough, but let's look at the full thing first and we can study it afterwards. If you divide the amount spent, so total of your money and credit, the amount spent, if you divide the past simple, to spend, spent, spent, the amount spent. Let me see. If you consider the amount of phones broken, this is actually a third form. It's not past simple, it's third form. this, if you divide the amount spent, because it's not past simple. Because if you said it about phones, you would say if you consider the amount of phones broke. No, you wouldn't say that. You would say if you consider the amount of phones broken. I think it is. Oh, it's more passive, which is interesting because yeah, what I've seen before is that you can get like a lazy passive, where the longer passive would be if you divide the amount that was spent. Okay, that's the longer, more correct passive. But I've noticed that I guess with nouns or in certain situations you can just create a kind of a short passive and just throw in the third form. You know, for example, I work for a company, or I work for a team in a company managed by my best friend. I work for a company, or I work for a team managed, because the longer form would be which is managed passive. Yeah, but I'm creating kind of like a lazy passive. I work for a team managed, third form, by my best friend. Okay, if you divide the amount spent.
If you
Divide. Okay, divide. I'm sure everyone knows divide. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So, if you divide the amount spent
divide the amount spent by the quantity
by, divide by, yeah, always. If you divide the total spending by the total quantity of products, services, and financial assets, by the quantities sold. Yeah, you see here, this is kind of a lazy passive as well. It's by the quantity that was sold. Okay, is the longer passive, but this is kind of a lazy passive. Yeah, I guess the pattern is after nouns you can do that. The amount of phones broken. Yeah, the amount of phones stolen. Okay, steal, stole, stolen. The amount of phones that were stolen, or the amount of phones stolen. Okay.
sold, you get the price.
You get the price. You receive the price. Okay. So yeah.
And that's it. You get the
Yeah, I guess it's what you spend for what products or services you get is the price. So if we have a huge supply of fantastic products and services, prices go down. Okay. If you have very, very few in your country, if you have very few products and services, then you'll get inflation, because there's more money than the amount of products and services in the economy. And also, if there's a lot of printing that goes on, then creating a huge amount of money and credit would create inflation as well, because there is more money and credit than products and services. So wouldn't the goal be for everyone to work hard and create really good products and services to bring down inflation?
price. And that's it.
And that is it. That's all. That is a transaction. That's it. That's simply it.
That's a transaction. It's the building block of the economic.
It is the building block. So, gerund, but what is the function? Noun, verb, or adjective? It is adjective, because block is a noun. What kind of block? A building block. Gerund, adjective. But if you say, oh, look at that tall building. Now, look at that building. That's a gerund noun. It's a thing. Look at the building. Gerund noun. But here it's gerund adjective. It is the building block of the economic machine.
Machine.
The reason why I say the is because this word economic begins with an E. Okay? So, yeah, whenever you see the, and then the next word starts with a vowel, we normally say the apple, the elephant. Because if you said the elephant, the sound is too close. The elephant, it's too close, so you want to distinguish the sounds, the different words. So you say the elephant, the economic machine, because the sound different now. But if you said they sound too close. But if you just say table or chair, then it's the chair, the table.
All cycles and all forces in an economy are driven by...
All cycles, cycle goes up and down, like the economy, goes up. We all have credit, we all have money. The cycle is going up. We reach the top and then, oh no, we crash. The cycle is going down. And when we hit rock bottom is the lowest point you can go. Then we can start the new cycle of going up. All cycles and all forces in an economy are driven by transactions. So passive, okay, and it's present simple passive as well. So generally speaking, it's fact. All cycles and all forces in an economy are driven by what? By transactions. Okay. For the passive, sometimes you don't have to mention by. My package was delivered. By who? Of course, the delivery man. But normally you don't have to mention by who or by what. But here we need it. By transactions.
Transactions. So if we can...
Oh, there was a
It's the
conditional. I didn't explain the conditional.
You get the... And if you...
So the conditional is if you divide. So it's either first conditional or zero conditional. Because first and zero we use present simple. If you divide...
You divide the amount spent by the quantity sold, you get the price.
Present simple, this is a zero conditional. It's fact. If it rains, the ground gets wet. If it rains, the ground gets wet. First conditional would be if it rains, the ground will. Okay, we use will for first conditional. The ground will get wet.
And that's it. That's a transaction. It's the building block of the economic machine. All cycles and all forces in an economy are driven by transactions. So if we can understand
Okay, maybe another conditional. So if we can understand, well now he's using modal. Okay, can. If we can understand transactions,
we can understand the...
We can understand, I guess it's a kind of a zero conditional. But with the conditionals, there's actually a crazy amount of variations that you can use. So here is one variation where you can use can instead of just normally you would just see a present simple. So then we can understand the whole entire economy.
The whole economy. A market.
A market, so he's speaking fact, present simple, consists. A market consists of all the buyers.
Consists of all the buyers and all the sellers making transactions.
Okay, so now he introduced one statement and now he's adding another descriptive statement starting with a gerund verb. So first statement.
A market consists of all the buyers and all the sellers
That was the first statement. Next statement, making transactions for the same thing. So it's an extra descriptive statement starting with a gerund. Making transactions for the same thing.
Making transactions for the same thing. For example, there is a wheat market.
For example, there is a wheat market. So in a wheat market, okay, we make bread from wheat, yeah? So there's millions of buyers and sellers within the wheat market. I'm in the English teaching market. Every time I take a lesson, it's a transaction. Sorry, some of this is very simple, but there's so many, people watching would be at different levels, so I apologize to students at the higher level. But I have to accommodate students at a lower level. Okay, wheat market. For example, there is a wheat market.
A car market.
A a car market filled with transactions
the
between buyers and sellers.
stock market,
Stock market
and markets for
and markets for millions of things. Okay.
millions of things.
Yeah, and I guess every market is a wheel in the machine.
An economy
An economy is made up of, remember, is made up of or consists of all the transactions.
consists of all of the transactions in all of its markets.
In all of its markets. So there's just thousands of markets, maybe more.
If you add up,
so whenever you add something up, you're adding something up for the total sum. Okay, if you add up, remember sum from before, it's the total amount after addition or adding up everything. So if you add up, like calculate, and if you add up the total spending is a gerund noun. Total, adjective.
up the total spending and the total
quantity sold. So, yeah, remember which was sold.
quantity
Remember, that's a lazy passive.
sold in all of the markets.
In all the markets. Total spending, total quantity.
You have everything you need to know to understand.
You have everything you need to know to understand the economy and to understand whether there is inflation or deflation.
The economy. It's just that simple.
It's just, just is another word for simply. It's simply that simple.
People,
businesses, banks, governments.
banks, and governments all engage in transactions.
All engage. Engage means to interact. All engage. Participate, you could say. They all participate in transactions the way I just a moment ago, just is like a moment ago described, past simple. Okay, so you have I guess banks, governments, buyers, sellers. The government here.
Actions the way I just described. Exchanging money and
Okay, so he's adding an extra descriptive sentence to the statement before. Okay.
governments all engage in transactions the way I just described. Exchanging money and
Exchanging, gerund verb. Exchanging money and credit for goods, products, services, and financial assets.
credit for goods, services, and financial assets. The biggest buyer and
The biggest, superlative, the most big buyer, the biggest buyer. But don't say the most big. It's always the biggest. The biggest buyer and seller is the government.
seller is the government, which consists of two important parts.
Okay, so we don't say who consists, only for people. Okay, we use who for people, but for things and companies and governments, we use which. So
The biggest buyer and seller is the government, which consists of two important parts.
the government, which is made up of or consists of two important parts.
A central government that collects taxes and
A central government that, present simple, fact, collects taxes and spends money. So he's using present simple because it's a fact, general fact.
spends money, and a central bank,
And a central bank,
which is different from other buyers and
which, okay, not who. Some people, you could say that, but which is better. That is different. Which is better. Which is different from other buyers and sellers because
it controls the amount of money and
it controls, present simple, general fact, the amount of money and credit in the economy.
credit in the economy. It does this by influence.
It does this by gerund. We use the gerund so much, as you can see. And so it does this by gerund, verb, noun, or adjective. It does this by verb, gerund verb. It does this by influencing interest rates. So interest rates are the central bank. I'm sure most people know what interest rates are, but for anyone who doesn't, a central bank, well, you have private banks and then a central bank, and the central bank sets an interest rate of 20%, for example. So if the central bank gives a loan to a private bank, the private bank can use that money, that loan, in any way that it wants, but it has to pay back the original amount plus 20%. Okay? Or a central bank can set the interest rate to 1%, and then they're really cheap interest rates. You only have to pay back 1% of your original loan. So it does this and then the private banks give you a loan. So it does this by influencing interest rates.
Interest rates and printing.
So the central bank raises and lowers interest rates. It's kind of like sometimes when the economy gets too hot, when there's too much inflation, the central bank needs to raise interest rates to make loans more expensive so that there's less loans, there's less spending in the economy, so the economy cools down. Or if the economy is too cold, if there's too much deflation, then the central bank can lower the interest rates and make loans really cheap, so you go and get a loan, there's more money in the economy, there's more spending, and then inflation rises to a healthy level, hopefully. So it's kind of like surfing or something. It's like the central bank is surfing the economy, and they have to make sure they stay on the wave, otherwise they can crash. So okay,
New money. For these reasons.
Okay, I'm gonna finish today because I've things to do, and I guess yeah, this is a pretty good video, so maybe I'll keep going with this video. And so come back tomorrow, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, and we'll keep looking at vocabulary, expressions, and grammar. Yeah, the goal is to go as fast as possible, so that hopefully you learn as much new interesting language as possible. I don't want to go too slow. And yeah, okay, that's it. Good stuff.